Steve Domenico from the Room Podcast with a very special guest today. I have on Chase the Dream Hooper, who made his UFC Featherweight debut back at UFC 245, December 14th. We're going to talk to Chase about that experience and being the youngest fighter on the UFC roster at 20 years old and what's next for this kid in 2020. Chase, thank you. Welcome to the show, man. How you been?
Good. Just kind of putting the weight back on, enjoying the holidays and all that.
Yeah, excellent, man. You had a lot to celebrate over the holidays. The fight was December 14th, Christmas right around the corner. How was it, man? How was running into the holidays with this big win under your belt?
It's good. Definitely better than the alternative. I think it's been like the past 3 years I've had like a fight or like something going on like right in December. So like I always miss out on Thanksgiving, but then I make up for it with the Christmas food and all that.
Excellent.
It's nice to come into that with a win too.
Excellent. Do you cut a lot of weight to get to the featherweight division? You're a tall, very thin but tall dude there. Do you cut a lot of weight to get to that weight class?
Yeah, I've bulked up a decent bit since Contender. I'm probably like 10 or 15 pounds bigger than I was when I started cutting for that. But I started dieting like a month or two out and then kind of worked my way down.
Well, you had the Contender fight back in July of 2018. You had 3 fights since then because you did get the developmental contract with them. Did you learn a lot of that in that process leading up to this, this UFC debut, as far as, the weight cutting and more nutrition, and maybe even adding to your, your training regimen?
Yeah, it was the developmental deal was great. Like I had access to the UFC Performance Institute and that for the whole. For all of it, my last fight on the developmental deal, they actually did the same thing that they do for the UFC fighters, where they gave me like some supplements and stuff, and like a little diet plan to help out with the weight cut and our rehydration stuff for my fight with Titan. And yeah, it's been great. It's been good to get me like all the experience and stuff, fighting higher level guys. Like having that target on my back, having to travel around, cut weight at the location and stuff. And then having to fight after doing like a ton of media stuff in the week leading up to that. Yeah, it's been good.
Excellent. Well, I mean, there's a lot of progression in there. You fought, I think, most of your, your 9 fights. Actually, it was like 6 or so pro fights. You fought on the West Coast in Washington. You didn't even travel in your pro debut or your amateur debut. Everything was basically in your home turf, right?
Yeah, for most of my fights, I didn't really even cut that much weight either. Most of my early pro fights were at 55, so it was pretty easy. And I would just like go cut weight like 20 minutes from my house when I did have to start cutting, and then like that was it. Like I'd go to weigh-ins the night before and then just fight the next day, like sleep in my own bed and all that. It was pretty easy.
But now you're traveling. All those fights after the win at the Contender Series, they've all been away from home, I think, on the East Coast, correct?
Yeah, every one of my fights has been on the East Coast.
How did that change? How does that change as far as, the normality of, you fighting at home, and now you're traveling and you have that target on your back, as you said?
It's good to kind of like get out of my comfort zone more, like get more into like what I was going to be dealing with the UFC, like having to travel, take 6-hour flights and stuff to get there and do all that. And like having to deal with all of the whole week pretty much is media stuff. Like you have to just get used to that. There's like a whole production to it, compared to like all my fights at home and stuff, where it was just like you show up and fight and that's it.
Is that something you like to do? Do you like that media part? Because that's going to be a big part of your career moving forward. Is that something that you enjoy doing?
Yeah, I try to have fun with it. I mean, it's going to be a huge part, and it has been since the Contender Series. Even for the Contender Series, it was so much more than I'd ever done before. But yeah, I think I'm starting to figure it out and kind of get more used to it.
Well, watching you on social media, since that Contender fight, your social media presence and your fan base and everything has grown as it should be. But I mean, it's grown leaps and bounds. You're the youngest UFC fighter on the roster at 20 years old. You're kind of carving a path for the younger generation of fighters, knowing that they can get into the Contender Series and get on the UFC roster at a young age. Do you feel like you're kind of carrying a little bit of torch for the younger guys behind you, that this can be done at an earlier than later age?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like there's been guys like Sage Northcutt that have, or like Max Holloway that have gotten in at a younger age. But I feel like now with more of the media stuff, it's like more people my generation are kind of getting into the fighting, and it's kind of it's cool because I was able to grow up like watching UFC and stuff, and then like the UFC is older than I am, so it's kind of it's cool to be on that next generation, or to be like one of the guys on the cusp of it, and to kind of like lead the pack, I guess. Yeah, it's cool.
Well, being 20 years old, buddy, you had your debut for the UFC. Let's talk a little bit about that experience. I mean, you talked about the 3 fights with the developmental deal, how, more media presence, the UFC giving you stuff and helping you out along the road, getting to train at the best facility. Now you get to that fight week for the UFC. We got a huge, title match. How was the experience, brother? How'd you soak that all in? And did you get to enjoy, the week or the time that you were there leading up to fight night?
I think I really did enjoy it. Like, I genuinely had fun doing all the stuff that they had me do. They had this huge schedule of just things that they put on for this day you have to go do an interview with this guy, then you have to go do your get your gear and make sure that all your fight kit is fitting properly and stuff. I just kind of had fun with it, and I think it showed, especially in the fight, on the walkout, I wasn't nearly as stressed out as I usually am for fights. I feel like normally, for me, it was the fear of losing was so much if I lose, I'm never going to make it to the UFC. But now it's I'm trying to put on good fights, I'm trying to have fun, and I'm trying to show off my skills.
Well, you took that first walk down there to that cage in a big event like that. What's going through your mind? What was the difference? Of course the lights and everything, but in the mind, what's the difference? What's going through your mind? Because I've talked to a lot of fighters that made their debut for the UFC recently, and they just said it's a surreal feeling, just being in there and just thoughts in your head of who has walked down that path to that cage. Was some of that going on in your mind, or was it basically, let's get this business over in there and let's enjoy the atmosphere after?
I was genuinely excited. I always kind of think going into fights, hey, this is only 15 minutes or 25 minutes if it was for a belt. After that, I get to enjoy my night, regardless of how it goes. But I always go in there trying to finish in the first, but willing to go all 15 minutes. But yeah, I was genuinely excited for that fight. And when I walked out there, I was happy. I felt like I kind of, earned that spot. I felt fantastic, and I was ready to fight.
Well, fight you did, bro. You went in there against a UFC, been in there a few times before. A dude older than you, a dude that seemed like he wanted to bully the younger guy coming in and kind of, put an end to this train that you're starting to get going. Did you feel that? Do you get that a lot? The older guy or the more, the veteran of the promotion giving you a little bit of that feeling you're not in his league, kind of?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of guys write me off from the age and the fact that I don't look like I'm tough. I don't look like I'm a fighter. So yeah, most guys think that's kind of their first way to victory in their heads, probably, is that I'm going to try to push this guy around. I'm going to try to bully him. But I feel like I kind of, I realize that they're getting pushy because it's the entertainment aspect of it. They want to they want people to like them, and they want people to think that they're badass and stuff. But, I just kind of go in there and treat it just like every other fight. I've always been fighting the older guys. I've always been fighting the bigger guys, and this fight was no different.
Excellent. Well, he came out, got you in a kind of a dominant position with that guillotine. Listen to the commentators, Cormier and Joe Rogan. They were worried for you in a second, and then the tide turns. You got out of that, and it seemed to take a little will out of his bite there, that he couldn't finish you there. And from there on, basically, you just put it to him. You stuck to him. You went to your game plan, which, take these guys down and beat the hell out of them. And you did that. And the whole time, I'm listening to Daniel Cormier and I'm listening to Joe Rogan, impressed by what you're doing. And even your opponent, I mean, you basically had to, kill him to put him away in that fight. So it was a great fight for you. So talk us a little through what was going through your mind when he first latched onto your neck.
I had a little flash of like, no, there's no way he's going to finish me. Like, I'd rather die before I tap to that. So, and I just I kind of play around a lot when I'm at the gym, especially with the grappling. I get into a lot of bad positions, like intentionally, especially with some of the like newer guys that are not as experienced ones. So then I get to work on more of my escapes and my defenses. And I feel like now I have a pretty good grasp on, even if I can't necessarily, drill how to get out of the submission or something, like I already kind of know the path. I've already just trained so much that I can kind of figure out what way is going to hurt me and what way is going to help me.
Yeah, and with his, the fights he's had in the UFC and the, the fighters that he's going against, he didn't have an answer. I mean, the transitions you were going through, you at the end there, you mounted him with that, that top triangle there, and then you started raining down the elbows there. And then I did catch the interview after, your post-fight interview, talking about it's the first time you cut someone open. What was that feeling like? Like, what's that feeling like?
I guess it's kind of like bloodlust a little bit, like it's weird because it's just like, just seeing the blood, I was real surprised at first, but then it just like motivated me to like keep going and kind of, keep digging at that spot.
Well, the fight didn't go on much longer than that. You finally put him away. Your hand raised. What's that feeling like? I mean, you've been there before, but not on this stage. What's that feeling like? What's going through a 20-year-old kid's mind there?
I was just happy. Like, it was such a huge moment for me, and it kind of, I was able to kind of validate myself and validate my team. We're from a small town, and like we aren't like a Jackson Wink or like an American Top Team. We're not like a huge place, but we have like some world-class guys, and my coach was able to take me from day one when I was like an 8-year-old kid all the way to the UFC. So it just kind of validates that.
And being with you that long, I mean, the trust and just, I mean, you guys are breathing each other's air there. I mean, you know exactly what's going on there, and you could hear that in the cage that night. You could actually hear, your coaches and telling you, getting you through that, that guillotine attempt there, man. So it's great to see, bro. How'd you celebrate after? You're only 20 years old. Were you allowed in any after parties? What went on there?
No, I'm not really a big after party guy. I got some M&Ms. I went back to the hotel and I just kind of took a nap. We actually had to fly out. I think our flight left at like 6 a.m.
Oh.
So we had to be like up and out of the hotel at like 4 or something. So it was definitely a late night, but not a fun one.
Excellent. Well, you must have been busy on social media because, a lot of stuff coming on, the days leading after that. A couple more questions before I let you go. You had some fun with Ben Askren online there, and we talk about getting your name out there and, you meeting all these people along the way. What was that all about? I mean, did he just take a liking to you? How'd that little chatter and that comedic little tweets go on?
Yeah, I think it's, well, obviously it's the hair and all that. But yeah, I think he just kind of appreciates the grappling and like the, curly-headed kid in the UFC. I'm sure he was getting tagged in plenty of stuff anyways. Like I get I get that a lot, or I did before the fight with people asking if I was Ben Askren's son, or like Sugar Sean is my brother or something. So
Exactly.
we just kind of went with it.
Well, one of my last questions is going to be Sugar Sean, because that's another young dude that came across, the UFC, and there's a lot of plans for him. He's coming back and all this other stuff, man. What's the future of 2020? What you definitely got another fight coming. What's your timeline? I know you're not picking, you can't pick, but is the UFC coming calling? Do they want to get you in there sooner than later?
I think they're probably going to let me fight as much as I want this year. We'll see. I'd like to fight maybe 3 or 4 times this year, depending on, staying healthy and all that. But we're just kind of waiting for all the holiday stuff to go by, for my coach to get back in town. And then we'll kind of have a little powwow, see what UFC wants, and kind of, go from there. Excellent. But I'd like to kind of work my way up nice and slow, not take any huge jumps or anything yet.
Exactly, and you're still progressing. I mean, as far as your fighting career and being a young talent in there, they're gonna bring you up right. You're gonna have many, many great matchups and things that fights that entertain the crowd there. Because, dude, not only are you doing it in there, you did it through your AMI career, you did it through your your regional pro career. You haven't been beaten. You had to finish first round in the UFC against a veteran in there. Dude, a lot of stuff going there. Youngest fighter on the UFC roster, man. And you're blowing up on social media, because I imagine, just talking to you, very personable, and you're someone that the fans really want to root for, bro. So I'm happy all the stuff's happened for you in 2019 leading into 2020.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, it's been crazy, but I'm having fun with it. I'm enjoying it.
Excellent. Last thing before I let you go, my friend, shout outs, any sponsors, training partners, your gym, coaches, anything, let it go.
Yeah, so Combat Sport Fitness is my gym. We're in Enumclaw, Washington. If anybody's really ever in Seattle, they can come in and train. We do a lot of gi jiu-jitsu. That's a big thing for me. We have striking, we have MMA, we have wrestling, we have all that. So yeah, if anybody's in the area, come on in and train.
Excellent. Social media?
Yeah, so Instagram at CHOOP556, and Twitter is Chase_Hooper.
Awesome. And you changed your name. It was the Teenage Dream. Now it is the Dream.
Yeah, just getting a little more mature with it, I guess.
Of course. I mean, but you did talk about if Reebok wanted to make some special stuff and take back that name and have like a throwback, no problem with that. For
sure. I'll wear it around town for sure.
Well, you're definitely a person they can market, my friend. You got a big following. You're a young kid. You're the future of MMA. And man, you're carrying a path and showing a path for the younger kids coming up in this game. So I appreciate everything you're doing out there, and I can't wait to see what's next for you in 2020, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate you having me on.
Chase the Dream Hooper, man, 9-0-1, 1-0 in the UFC. Coming back at you in 2020, man. The kid's on fire, and he's going to be showing the younger generation how it's done in the UFC. Catch you later on the Room Podcast. We out.